Salve debiatores, and welcome back to Let's Translate Phaedrus' Fables. I'm translating through a selection of fables by the Roman Phaedrus. Here are all the fables that I have and will translate through. Today, we've got another long one. This might be the longest one, honestly. Either longest or second longest. And it's not helped by a couple of topics that I want to touch on throughout this fable. So, let's get into it. Lupus ad canem, the wolf to the dog. Quam dulcis libertas praeter proloquar. So quam it could be the accusative singular feminine form of qui, which is a pronoun, but it can also be an adverb, meaning a couple different things, but here I'm pretty sure it is how. Not like in an interrogative way, like not as a question, but how great, how nice, that kind of thing. Dulcis is an adjective. It means literally sweet, in the same ways that we would use the word sweet. Both like a sweet smell, a sweet taste, a sweet person, that kind of thing. Sit is third person singular subjunctive, I think. Yeah, it's definitely subjunctive from sum. And sum, of course, is the verb to be. So, I think it's subjunctive because of the verb of speaking here. So I think it would just be is, because it's also present tense, so just is. Libertas. Oh, I probably need to make this the same size as the Latin, because, yeah, it's long, so it's got to be small to show everything. But libertas means freedom. Liber is the adjective free. Libertas is the concept of freedom. How sweet is freedom? Breviter. We get the word brevity from this. At least this is the adverbial form from brevis, I think is the adjective for brief. So briefly. And proloquar, it's just the first person singular, but future active indicative from proloquor, which means to speak out, utter. I think declare will work here. This is first person. I, future, will declare. How sweet is freedom, briefly I will declare. But for more sensible word order for English, I will declare briefly how sweet liberty is. Since this is a poem, it's in verse at the very least, I think I will go a little more poetic. How sweet liberty is. Just a slight difference in word order. Cani per pasto, macie confectus lupus, forte occurret. So cani, you might be able to guess, is another form from canem, or, well, the nominative is canis, but cani, if you follow the third declension, as canis is, that is the dative. So, I guess, let's go with to a dog for now. Per pasto agrees in gender, number, and case with cani. It is the perfect passive participle from per pasco, which literally means to graze or to pasture, like cattle. But when it's done to yourself, then it could be well fed or in good condition, which I think this is one of the only places that actually uses per pastos. But let's say well fed. Macie is the ablative of, which I'll say from. Let's put from for the ablative. It's from macies, which means leanness, thinness, basically starvation. Yeah, let's say thinness. We get this is part of the word emaciated. So another word we get from Latin. If you've been watching these videos, you might have noticed a lot of those. Confectus. This is another perfect passive participle from conficio, which means to prepare, bring about, or finish. Really, mainly finish. In fact, finish in a figurative sense. So like, this wolf is finished. Like, he's done. Basically, not dead, but very worn out. And I just said, lupus. We've seen lupus in the first fable that we read, Lupus et Agnus. So, a wolf. Forte is the ablative form from forus, which means luck or chance. And actually, it could just be the ablative, but it's used adverbially here. So by chance or by luck, accidentally, or could also say just happened. Not like it happened, but like something happened to... Well, no. I'm not going to go with that, because that makes it sound like the verb is in the infinitive when it is not. Yeah, I'm just going to go by chance. And occorret. This is from occorro, which, like, occurred or happened upon, met. Let's just go with the basic met. Because I believe, yeah, this is either perfect or present tense. And it could actually be either one, so it just depends. This is technically happening in the past, so let's just do with what I already did. Perfect tense. Completed action. So, let's put it in better English word order. Let's see. So, a wolf worn out by... Honestly, I'm going to go with starvation, actually. Or maybe hunger. Let's go with hunger. Met by chance. And these are in the dative, but, well, yeah, in that case, no, because occorro kind of just takes the dative. Met by chance. So if it takes the dative, it's basically just the object. So let's do met by chance a well-fed dog. There. Let's sort it like that. Dane salutati kinda in Wickham. Ut restiterunt. So Dane means after. It's an adverb. Honestly, it seems like it should be a conjunction, but it's an adverb. But it could just be then, or next, afterwards, afterwards. Salutati is just the nominative plural from salutatus, which is the perfect passive participle of saluto. So, greeted. I guess having been greeted, and in Wickham is an adverb we saw in one of the previous fables. I think it was the one about the old... What I don't remember the full title, but the one about the old woman and the young woman loving the man, with them plucking out the hairs of the man in Wickham, in turn. So one after the other, basically. Oot. Oot's a lot, and I never quite remember all the different ways that oot is used, but at least here our verb is indicative, and I think it's being used as a conjunction. And with the indicative, it means as. A lot of the time, it seems like it's comparisons for that, though. And it doesn't look like it's always like that. So, yeah, as restiterunt. This is from resisto, which means to just kind of stand still, I guess. Just continuing, stopping, just kind of standing there. As they, because this is third person plural, and this is perfect tense, which is why I went with perfect tense for met. As they stood, I guess, afterwards having been greeted in turn as they stood, I guess. Unde sic quaeso nites. So, two adverbs and two verbs, weird sentence, but unde means whence, if you want to have fun at least. Or just from where, or I guess you could just do it where from. Also, that's beginning a little bit of dialogue, so let's have a quotation mark, and we got out of... No. Ooh, there we go. Okay. Seek is thus or so. I guess so. Let's do so. Quae so? It just means I ask. I don't get why... It seems like, at least with Phaedrus, the verbs of speaking are always just a few words into the dialogue. And I don't get why, but maybe it's just how Latin does. Because it does happen quite a lot with Latin in general. And it irks me to no end, honestly. But that's my English-speaking brain. So, And nites comes from niteo, which means to shine or to sparkle. And this is just the second person singular present active indicative, so you shine. To put it in a better way, I ask you, from where do you shine so? Not necessarily asking how, well, more so asking how than like literally from where, or maybe from where. No, it really is mostly just how. How are you shining so? What allows you to shine so? And not necessarily like literally shining or sparkling like a vampire, but more so a glistening coat of the dog that is clearly well cared for. Out. Quo cibo fecisti tantum corporis. Out is just a conjunction meaning or. Quo cibo, I think this is just a tiny relative clause. Actually, I think it's more so like this. I think that verb is included. Quo, relative pronoun, ablative this time, from which cibo is from cibus, which means food. From which food... Actually, I guess it's more so... Yeah, the relative clause is just the rest of it. The rest of the sentence. Fecisti is from facio, also the second person singular perfect active indicative. So, did you make or do is what facio means. Very common verb that everybody should definitely make sure to know. Tantum, from tantus, which means so great, so much, so many. I would say so great. And corporis is weird because it's from corpus, and it's genitive singular. So, did you make so great of a body? That's what corpor means. Or not corpor, corpus. Corpus is a body, but so great of a body? Maybe this could be kind of a genitive of quality kind of thing? Well, no, because the quality... The corporis is not a quality. Like, I get what it's saying. I would just put it so great a body. I don't know why it's genitive, though. Actually, maybe it's genitive of material? No? Okay, my final answer. Having looked at different uses of the genitive, I believe this is just a genitive with an adjective just being not like specification, but just being used for an object of reference for the adjective. And in that case, you really don't need the of, which is usually how you translate the genitive. So that's my final answer for what's happening with why corporis is the genitive. But anyway, so a dog and a wolf meet, and the wolf asks, well, I ask you, from where do you shine or glisten so? Or from which food? Or, wait, or from which food did you make such a great body? Yeah. From which food? Yes, that makes sense. Ego, qui sum longe fortior, pereo fame. That's not really adjective. So ego, as you might be able to guess, is just I. Qui, relative clause, just the nominative masculine singular pronoun, relative pronoun. Who. Sum, I already mentioned earlier with sit. Wherever sit went, there it is. This is just first person singular, present active indicative. So am. Longe is the adverbial form from longus, which means just long, but adverbially, by far. Fortior. Fortior is the comparative form of fortis, which means strong or brave. Here, I think more so strong, because it's a wolf comparing itself to a dog. So stronger. I, who, I guess just am stronger by far. Pereo. I'm pretty sure that's the first person singular present active indicative from, well, literally just pereo. That's what you'll find in the dictionary. But it just means to perish, or I guess vanishing. You could say that too. But I think perishing, I am perishing fame. This is the adverbial, not adverbial, but the ablative form of fames, which is hunger. I guess I should change, where did it go? There, worn out by hunger. I guess I'll just go with thinness. I'm perishing by hunger. Actually, let's do, well, no, thinness. I was going to say starvation, but I'm going to say just thinness. Because it is the adjective meaning thinness. So I, who am stronger by far, am perishing by hunger. I am unable to feed myself, at least not enough to have some meat on those bones. Canis simplicator. The dog, canis, that's the nominative form. We've seen the nominative, dative, and accusative. Simplicator, you might be able to guess something to do with simple or simplicity. And you could guess by how I circled it, it's an adverb. The ter ending ought to tip you off to being an adjective, not an adjective, an adverb. So simply, and no verb of speaking, other than, at the end is the verb of speaking. Okay. I'm just going to mark that now with inquit. So, eadem est condicio tibi, praestare domino si par officium potes. There we go. So, eadem is from idem, which means the same. And the dem, I don't need that. The dem never changes. The ending really never changes. It's the first part of it that does change. Because technically this is a pronoun on its own, but the dem makes it the same. So basically just decline is ea id, just add the dem, and you get the same. So the same, est, is just third person singular present active indicative from sum, so is. Condicio, you might be able to guess condition, and this is just the nominative singular form. condition tibi, dative form of to, or you, to you, or for you, I think. Because I think it should be the condition is the same for you. And not like condition as in the condition of the body, but the condition for getting that body. I don't know. Well, I guess it's a condition. Yeah. Like the method, but it's not really method. Because condicio can also be an agreement, a contract, a demand, a term. So, yeah. I guess circumstances. I'd say condition, because it's kind of... You'll see. Praestare is the infinitive from praesto, which here, like, it could be to be outstanding or excel. It could also be to exhibit or show, but I think it's more to provide. Domino, dominus, anno domini. So the master, just the dative form, to provide to the master. C means if. Par, on par. So, like an equal. Officium. An officium is a duty or a service. So let's say service, and this is nominative or accusative because it's a second declension neuter noun. And actually, I think I do have to put object here because potes is second person singular, I think present active indicative. Either that or, yeah, it's indicative. From possum, which possum is the sibling of sum, just instead of to be, it is to be able. So, you are able. So the condition is the same for you, to provide for the master if you are able. Well, I guess. Oh, yeah. Really weird word order for English. If you are able, si potes, to provide par officium, an equal service, domino, to the master. So basically, the condition will be the same for the wolf to gain the great body of the dog if they're able to serve the dog's master in a similar way, or at least of equal value, I suppose. Quod inquit ille. And actually, quotation marks. I forgot the quotation marks. There we go. And quod, well, quod at the very least, is not actually an adverb. I thought it meant how, but I guess I was thinking of something else. It could either be a conjunction or a neuter form from qui, the relative pronoun. I think it's being the relative pronoun kind of on its own, with est implied, because it's like which is. Inquit ille, that one said. Which is, as in, what is that service that he has to provide? Which is why quod is in the neuter, because officium, which is what it is relative to, is a neuter noun. Gustos ut sis liminis. I think that's genitive. A furibus duearis et noctu domum. So custos, just on its own, is the nominative singular for a guard or protector. Yes, I know I spelled guard wrong. Let's say guard. Like a guard. Ut, and sis is subjunctive, so it's so that, more purpose. Sis is the second person singular present active subjunctive of sum, so that in subjunctive is more is less defined, so you would be. And liminis is the genitive singular of limen, which means like the border or the threshold. I guess you could also say the house. I want to say border, but I guess the doorstep. Yeah, actually the doorstep, guarding the doorstep. Of the doorstep. So that you would be guardian of the doorstep. A furibus. Furibus is from fur, which is a thief, or apparently a blackguard. It's apparently derogatory, especially said to a slave. Where is that from? Plautus? That makes sense. Okay, but let's say thief. So, a, from preposition, furibus, from thieves. Tueares is the second person singular present active subjunctive from tueor, which means to watch or guard, defend. You would guard, because again it's subjunctive. And noctu is the ablative form from nox, so like ablative time when? At night? Domum is just house, the accusative form, because the nominative is domum. Not domum, domus. So, yeah. I feel like you need to have the et at the beginning, because it makes no sense otherwise. It should just be connecting these two parts of the sentence, rather than this and this. And you would guard the house at night from thieves. So basically, if the wolf wants to get fed consistently, just guard the house. Ego, vero, sum paratos. Ego, I. Vero is the adverbial form, is an adverb for truly, or certainly. Why, there we go. Actually, yeah, certainly. Sum, am, paratos. Paratos is the perfect passive participle from paro, which means to prepare. So I am prepared, or I guess you could say ready. I would say I'm just gonna go with prepared. Also, quotation marks. I forgot quotation marks. I certainly am prepared. So the wolf is very ready. Nunc patior nives imbresque in silvis asperam vetam trahens. Ooh, need to mark vetam as the object because it's the object of trahens. Well, kinda, I guess. Kinda. Hold on. So, nunc is the conjunction meaning now. Patior is just the first person singular present active indicative to mean suffer or tolerate. I'm going to go with suffer. So he has suffered or actually endured. Yeah. Actually, yeah. He now endures. And I guess I now endure. Nives. Nives is the nominative or accusative plural from Nyx. Not Nyx as in, like, the Greek goddess of night, Nyx, but Nix, which means snow. I now endure snow. Imbresque. Que, of course, you got to put it before the word that it is a suffix to. Imbres is the nominative or accusative plural from imber, which rather than sounding like ember, it means rains. Or I guess just rain. I now endure snow and rain. In silvis. In, of course, is in or on, when it takes the ablative at least. And silvis is dative or ablative from silva, which silva means the wood or forest. So I now endure snow and rain in forests. Asperam is an adjective from asper, I believe just the feminine accusative singular form, which means rough or harsh, bitter. I'm going to go with harsh. And vitam, vitamin, it brings you life, brings you more life. So vita is life, just the accusative singular form. Harsh life, trahens. This is the present active participle from traheo, not traheo, traho, which literally means to drag or like extract. It could also be to draw out or extend, like drag out. So I'm going to say dragging out. I now endure snow and rain in forests, dragging out a harsh life. Actually, no, rough life actually makes sense here. A rough life. The wolves had a rough life. Just a rough time of it. Quanto est facilius mihi sub tecto vivere, et otiosum largo cibo satiari. I think that's how it would be. So quanto is from quantos, which is an adjective meaning how much, how many, usually is what I think of it as. It could be how big, how great. Let's do how great. How great. Est, third person singular, present active indicative of sum, is facilius. Facilius is the comparative of facile, which means easy, so easier. Mihi, the dative form of ego, for me. Sub, preposition meaning under, takes an ablative, tecto. This is from tectum, which means a roof or ceiling. And of course, second declension, so O is either, the O ending is either dative or ablative. So sub, ablative. Under means a roof or a canopy, shelter. Under, let's say a roof. And vivere, from vivo, which means to live. To live, and this is the infinitive. Actually, I guess it would be how much easier is it for me to live under a roof? Et otiosum. It's from otiosus, which is an adjective meaning idle or idle, which I don't know why it's in the accusative here though, unless it's modifying something in the that's neuter, but I don't know what it would be. I thought it might have been modifying like the wolf itself, but I don't know. And idle, let's come back to that. Largo, dative or ablative singular from largus, an adjective just meaning like large or abundant. Let's do with a large. Satiari, in the context of eating and food and hunger, you might be able to guess that it means to satisfy or feed, which it comes from satio, satiare, which means to satisfy. So, and I said satiare as the infinitive because satiari, that is passive. When first conjugation infinitives, they usually end in are. When it's ari, they're passive. So, to be sated. And kibo, did we see that before? I thought we saw kibum. There it is, kibo, ablative form already. Same as kibo here. Food. And, I don't know. Oh, wait, maybe, accusative. Well, no, because it would be the subject that would be, and idle to be sated with a large meal, but I'm not sure about where idle goes. I mean, I guess it's kind of like that, like, and like describing himself idle or at leisure, because otium is the noun form of this, which means like leisure time. And at leisure to be sated with a large meal. I think that's what it's supposed to be. And that's what I'm going to go with. Veni, ergo. No, I think that would be a conjunction. If you've watched a bunch of my videos, you will know I get adverbs and conjunctions messed up all the time. Mix up which one is a conjunction and which one is an adverb. Oh, ergo could be a conjunction or an adverb. Oh, cool. Okay. I'm gonna do it as a conjunction. I think it's a conjunction. Mecum. Okay. Actually, no. I think it is an adverb. I think it's being used as an adverb here. It doesn't matter that much in the grand scheme of things for translating, but I just like to try to figure those out. So, Weni, you may know this from the famous phrase, Weni Witty Wiki. I came, I saw, I conquered. But it could be the first person perfect active indicative, or it could be the imperative. So, being used as an order. So, come, ergo. Therefore, well, no, that's for the conjunction. I guess, then, as in, like, consequently, or just in that case, and mecum. So, the preposition cum, taking the ablative, means with. Me is the ablative form of ego, so me, to then, at some point, they just got combined together into one word, with me. So, then come with me. Quotation marks. Need the quotation marks. Dum procerunt aspicit lupus a catena a colum detritum cani. So dum, conjunction meaning while. Procerunt, you might be able to guess from English, it looks like to proceed, and that's exactly what it means. This is just from procero, that's the first person singular present active indicative, and this is just third person plural. But while they proceed, while they, I guess, go on. And honestly, I want to say as they go on. For some reason, my mind is just really wanting to translate doom as, in a time manner. Aspicit is from aspicio, which means to look at, or see, or catch sight of, or even notice. And this is just third person singular present active indicative again. So I guess notices. Lupus, the wolf. The wolf. A catena, a is preposition, takes an ablative. And catena, it could mean a chain, or like a fetter, or shackle. In the context of a dog, I think it might be referring to the collar, which may have a chain attached to it. At least some way of binding the dog. Colum means the neck, and that's just its second declension, so nominative or accusative. But we've already got our noun with lupus, so neck. Detritum, that's an adjective from detritus, or no, it's not. It's a participle, perfect passive participle from detero, which means to rub away or wear away. So, or to wear out. So, worn out. And cani, that's dative, isn't it? Okay, so cani is the dative singular form of canis, as we've seen earlier, but I don't know what it's doing here. I thought it was the genitive before when I was sight reading, so I was saying the neck of the worn out neck of the dog, but it's not genitive, so it can't be possessive. So what you do in there, how you fit into this, why you dative. So let's put this into English word order. As they go on, the wolf notices the neck worn out by the collar. For the dog, maybe like using it to describe the collar. As they go on, the wolf notices the neck worn out by the collar for the dog. It feels like just a roundabout way of using the possessive, which I don't know. Either that or because katana could be chain by the chain to the dog, but normally it would be chained to the dog as like a verb or participle. If anyone wants to explain this to me, then go right ahead. But I'm going to say the collar... Honestly, all the translations I see say the neck of the dog, so I'm just going to go with that. Because I don't see any other way to say this. And instead of the collar, a collar. Unde hoc, amice. Once again, speaking, and unde, just like before, where is this from? Hoc being the accusative singular of hic, which is this, just a pronoun meaning this. And amice is from amicus. It is the vocative form, so a direct address. Where is this from? Friend. Which, dog and wolf being friends, that's nice. Nihil est. It is nothing. Nihil means nothing. Dic, sodes. What exactly is sodes? Because it's a different thing. Sodes, it's an adverb. Okay. Tamen. So dic is the imperative form from dico, dicere. So speak. Sodes is an adverb meaning like if you please, if you don't mind. By all means. Or even just please. Maybe please speak. Oh, what? This entire time I kept thinking that tamen was a conjunction, but no, it's also an adverb. Okay. And it's like yet or still. Although I'm gonna go even so, please. And honestly, do tell. That's how I'm going to translate that. Quia videor acer allegant me interdiu luce ut quiescam et vigilem. Yeah, vigilem. Nox cum veneret. Hold on. Let me just make sure vigilem is properly marked. There we go. So quia is a conjunction meaning because. Videor is the first person singular present passive indicative. So rather than I see, I am seen. And acer. Acer means sharp, harsh, even violent, potentially. Allegant is just the third person present active indicative, and it is from allego, allegare, which means to bind or fasten, fetter, detain. So they, I guess, bind me, the accusative form from ego. They bind me, inter dio. Inter usually is like through, and diu, in the day, like diurnal. So they bind me through the day, just an adverb, just meaning that, like during the day, through the day. Luce is the ablative form of lux, so I guess with light, because lux is light. Ut, I think our verb here is in the subjunctive, so that quiescam, it could either be first person singular future active indicative or first person singular present active subjunctive. And I think I'm going with the subjunctive. It sounds better as purpose, or at least ut sounds better as purpose, so that I rest. Yeah, so that I rest in the light, I guess, and et wigglem. It looks weird for a verb, but it is first person singular present active subjunctive from wigglo, which means it could be to be watchful, or just watch. But I think it might be, and so that I rest in the light and wake up. Nox is night. Cum, as a conjunction, means when, and veneret is from venio. It is the third person perfect active subjunctive, or no, cum as a conjunction. I think it's with the indicative that it means when. Yeah, with the indicative, well, they're both when, but subjunctive is more causal, indicative is more time. So when comes, though veneret and wake up, when night will have come, I guess? Speaking in a little more future, because it's future perfect active indicative if we're going with the indicative. But it's also, yeah, I think I'll just go with will have come. But it's weird that any option is a different tense than the other ones. Because wigglem is present, quiescam is present. So then why not have like veniam for first person singular present active subjunctive here? Well, I guess not veniam because it's not first person, but veniat. Sounds a little strange to me, but I think I will just stick with so that I rest in the light and wake up when night will have come. Crepusculo solutus quia visum est, or qua visum est, vagor. So crepusculo is from crepusculum, which means twilight, dusk, or darkness. So probably it's dative or ablative. If I were to guess, it's ablative of time when, so at dusk. Solutus. Solutus is an adjective meaning free or unbound. So unbound. Actually, I think this is not a relative clause, but that quia, or not quia, it's qua. Qua is an adverb. So qua, as an adverb, can mean where. Where visum est. Visus is the perfect passive participle from video, which of course means to see. So, where it was seen, vagor. Vagor is just the first person present active indicative to say like wander or roam or stroll. I'm going to say roam because Rome, but also just because it works the best here, I think. At dusk, unbound, I roam. Wherever is seen, maybe? like to mean wherever the dog can see, it goes. Afertur ultro panis de mensa sua dat ossa dominus. And then frusta jactat familia et quod fastidit quisque pulmentarium. Afertur is the third-person singular present passive infinitive from afero, which means to bring forth, carry forth, bring, or offer, or provide, give, but I'm going to say offer. So, yeah, it's passive, so is offered. Ultro. Ultro is an adverb. It could mean beyond or on the other side. I think here it's just besides, moreover. Besides, panis, if you know panem et circenses, it means bread. Panem is just the accusative form. Panis is the nominative. So bread. So I think it's besides, bread is offered. De, preposition, it could mean on account of, though I think, like on account of or on, I think that takes the accusative. No, it takes the ablative, but it could mean concerning, about, on account of, but it could also be from or down from. Bread is offered from the mensa. Mensa is table. Oop. Sua. Why is Sua here? I guess from their table? Oh, no, probably from his table, because I just remembered up ahead. Dot, from do dare, third person singular, present active indicative, gives. Ossa, I think that's bone. Ossa, nominative or accusative plural, from os or ossum. And os could mean mouth. I think it could also mean bone, but ossum is definitely bone. Gives bones. Dominus has to be the subject because it's nominative. Master. And so from his table, master gives bones. What a nice guy, giving bones to his dog. Frusta is the nominative or accusative plural of frustrum, not frustrum, frustum, which means a piece, bit, or scrap, table scraps. Jactat is from jacto jactare, which means to throw, throws, third person singular, but of course familia, family. So the family throws table scraps. You could also, instead of saying table scraps, say crumbs, but I think table scraps is better, because it's the dog trying to convince the wolf that you get so much food from the people. Et, and, quod. Did we see quod before in this fable? Yeah, but it's a kind of different, where that was being used more as a relative pronoun. This quote is more of the conjunction, because fastidit, which is the third person singular present active indicative from fastidio, which means to dislike or loathe, despise, because dislikes quisque. Quisque could mean each one, each person, or it could also mean everyone. Everyone, not because they dislike everyone, but because everyone dislikes it, and because everyone dislikes it, pulmentarium, which pulmentarium is a word you won't see often, but it's apparently kind of like the ancient Roman version of porridge. There is actually a description of how to make it. It's a pretty vague description, but a description nonetheless, by a guy named Caelius Apicius. There's a work called Terre Culinaria, or Terre Coquinaria, which is just on cooking, or on the matter of cooking, on cooking matters, which has a bunch of recipes. Though this is from the 5th century, so a few centuries later than Phaedrus. So maybe that was how the Romans cooked it, maybe it's not. But it's basically just putting a bunch of vegetables in a batter and mixing it. Well, not batter. Hold on. Yeah, he says, for pulmentarium ad ventrem, all green vegetables are suited for this purpose. Very young, or like small, beets and well-matured leeks are parboiled. Arrange them in a baking dish. Grind pepper and cumin. Add broth and condensed must, or anything else to sweeten them a little. Heat and finish them on a slow fire and serve. Yeah, that doesn't tell a whole lot. And then the next one is actually similiter. Similarly, or like a similar dish, parboil polypody, the roots of a fern herb. So parboil polypody root so as to soften them, cut them into pieces, season with ground pepper and cumin, arrange in a baking dish, finish on the fire, and serve. So yeah, kind of porridge-y. But apparently, the Romans didn't like that, so... Though also, so there's this website that I really like that you can look up Roman words, or Latin words, and it'll bring up other examples of that word, at least in their database. And so, with Phaedrus and Pulmentarium, the only other source of Pulmentarium that it would bring up was the New Testament. But every time I look up a translation of that part of the New Testament, it refers to fish. I don't know why, but that would also be closer in time to this. So, I don't know. Does Pulmentarium actually refer more to fish? At least in like the 1st and 2nd centuries CE? I don't know all that much about Roman food other than like garum, and I don't remember the name of it, but there was supposed to be... Well, actually, I haven't tried it. Like a kind of Roman energy drink that does involve a little bit of wine. So if you know, let me know. Pulmentarium. Is it fishy, or is it more vegetable-y, or is it a mixture of both? But anyway, moving on. Sic sine labore venter impletor meus. Sic, we've seen this before. Thus, sine is preposition, takes the ablative, without. Labore, ablative form of labor, which means labor or work. Venter is the nominative form, means belly or stomach. Impletor is from impleo, third person singular present passive indicative, passive, the you are, and it means to fill. So, is filled. And meus is just my. It's in the nominative, so it's modifying venter. Basically the adjectival version of ego. Thus, without work, my stomach is filled. I mean, yeah, that sounds like a pretty decent gig. You gotta be tied up, stuck in just a small place for the day, but then during the night, you're up and about, you get to wander about, and you get fed as much as you want. Lots of food. Age, si quo abire est animus, est licentia. Quotation mark. I forgot quotation marks. There we go. So age, it could be the imperative of ago, which means to do, but I think it's more the interjection. There's an interjection for age that you could say, well now, or well then, see if, quo Actually, I guess that's also the adverb. If, where, abere, infinitive from abeo, which means to go forth, or to go from. So, like, to, I guess just to go. Est is animus. Animus, mind or spirit. If, I guess it is your mind to go, wherever. Est is licentia. Licentia is like license, liberty, freedom, or even like unrestrained liberty, wantonness. And I guess let's do, is it freedom? Well then, if it is your mind to go wherever, is it freedom? So like, if you want to go wherever, but you can't, is it really freedom? Oh, quotation marks, I keep forgetting those. Non plane est inquit. And so the dog responds, well, not, let's say plainly, not. Plainly, it is not. It said. By it, I mean the dog. So the dog agrees. That's not really freedom. Fruere quae laudas canis regnare nolo liber ut non sim mihi. Fruere means to enjoy or get pleasure from or engage in. So like, I think this is it could either be future active indicative second person singular from fruor, or it could be second person singular present active indicative, or imperative. And I think it's just imperative. Just enjoy, quae, relative clause, that which laudas, second person singular, present active indicative of laudo, which to laud is to praise. And canis, dog, enjoy that which you praise, dog. Regnare, from regno. Why am I forgetting English cognates? Reign, I guess? Regent? It means to rule. Regno, regnare means to rule. So to rule, nolo. No, volo is I want. Nolo is I do not want. Not want. So I do not want to rule. Liber is, I'm gonna put it as well, no, it's not the noun freedom or liberty, it's just the adjective, so free. Ut plus the subjunctive, so that, non, not, sim, I would be, mihi, for me. I think so that I would not be free to me? To be free to me or to be free for me? Maybe free to myself? Basically, I think it's like, so it's not freedom, the dog agrees. So then the wolf says, well then enjoy that which you're praising, dog. I don't want to rule, so that I would not be free, like I would not be free for myself. I would not be living for myself. So even if the wolf would be king, it wouldn't be true freedom, as they wouldn't be living for themselves. Right? It's a really awkward way to say it to me, but I think that's it. So the wolf does not want to rule, if that would mean that the wolf was not their own master. Which, yeah, this is a really interesting fable to me, with the whole moral. Because, like, it's still discussed today how much freedom one should have versus security. Especially like that Ben Franklin quote. What was it? Something about those who would sell their freedom for a bit of security don't deserve freedom or safety. Something like that. Like, it's still... that idea and debate is still prevalent. Especially with how much things have changed in the United States after 9/11, with how much the government says it is securing us with the Patriot Act. But I think it's also really interesting from the perspective of Phaedrus, because Phaedri Augusti Liberti, the freedman of Augustus Phaedrus. Phaedrus was a slave at one point, if at least we believe the title of the work in the manuscripts. So I would think this fable would be speaking to Phaedrus specifically. Now, of course, I don't know if this is an Aesop original or a Phaedrus original. Maybe he really wanted to write this fable because of his slave past. And I think it's really interesting, as a slave, or as a freedman, or as an ex-slave, he seems to value freedom over being completely taken care of, not having to worry at all about your basic needs, even if you're giving up, like, at least total freedom. You've got some freedom, but you don't have your total freedom. And I think that's a really interesting idea to be thinking about for an ex-slave. But I also wanted to touch on something not related to the moral. I wanted to talk about... I'm going to take away the markings for now, because... So I wanted to talk about... Let's see, where is it? I think it's this... Not that... This part. These lines. Either that or it's these 5 lines. So let's go up a bit. So, this is from Perseus Tufts, as you can tell right there. That is the text from Perseus Tufts. But over here is the text from the Latin library. And so, yeah, you could see a difference. Afertor utro panes, unde hoc amice. They, basically, the part about getting the scraps and the bread is not changed, because it's still there, just up here. Instead of being a last-ditch effort to try to convince the wolf in the Perseus Tufts text, it's just putting on more convincing. Yeah, it's just putting on more convincing in the beginning for the Latin library text. This is from the Latin library, this is from Perseus Tufts. And I think it's both work, but it's just an interesting showcase of different manuscripts change the text. And I don't know where these where these websites get the text, what manuscripts they might be, because trying to find the different manuscripts for Phaedrus is near impossible, at least online. If any of you can find digitized screenshots of the manuscripts for Phaedrus's Fables, I want those. Please send them to me. But yeah, Perseus Tufts, it's further down, more last attempt to convince, and Latin library, it's just kind of more reasoning altogether with everything else. Also, afertor, just different spelling. It's the same word, it's just spelled differently sometimes. I think afero is seen as the standard spelling, but adfero also is seen in different places. So yeah, I just thought it was interesting because I originally sight translated from the Latin library text, and then I'm like, I swear and then I was translating from the Perseus Tufts text, and I was like, I swear I remember a part about scraps from the table, from the family. And then I get down below and I'm like, wait a second, that's late. And yeah, just differences. So it's always good not only to check when you're reading something in translation to check translations against each other, but also even if you're reading the original language, check different sources to see if there are differences in those and where they're getting their texts. I just think it's a really fun thing about reading ancient languages and ancient texts that you can find different versions of the same text. But enough rambling on my part. I thought this was a fun fable, interesting moral, still very prevalent today, and very interesting from the perspective of Phaedrus himself. But before we end this off totally, let's go to a Latin reading and an English reading. Quam dulcis sit libertas, preveter proloquar, cani per pasto macie confectus lupus forte occorret, dein salutati invicem, ut restituerunt, unde sic, quae sonites, auts quocibo fecisti tantum corporis, ego, qui sum longe fortior, per eo fame, canis simpliciter, eadem est condicio tibi, praestare domino si paro ficium potes, quod, inquit ille, custos ut sis liminis, a furibus tuearis et noctu domum, ego vero sum paratus, nunc patior nives imbresque in silvis asperam vitam trahens, quanto est facilius mihi sub tecto vivere, et otiosum largo satiari cibo, veni ergo mecum, dum procedunt, aspecet lupus ac tene colum tetretum cani. Unde hoc, amice? Nihil est. Dic sodes tamen. Quia videor acer, elegant me interdio, luce ut quiescam et vigilem nox cum veneret. Crepusculo solutus, qua visum est, vagor. Afertur, utro panis, de mensa sua dat ossa dominus, frusta diactat familia, et, quod fastidit quisque, pulmentarium. Sic sine labore venter impletur meos. Age si quo abire est animus, est licentia? Non plane est, inquit. Fuere quae laudas canes, regnare nolo liber ut non sim mihi. I will declare briefly how sweet liberty is. A wolf worn out by thinness met by chance a well-fed dog. Afterwards, having been greeted in turn as they stood, I ask you, from where do you shine so? Or from which food did you make so great a body? I, who am stronger by far, am perishing by hunger. The dog, simply, the condition is the same for you. If you are able to provide an equal service to the master, which is, that one said, so that you would be guardian of the doorstep, and you would guard the house at night from thieves. I am certainly prepared. I now endure snow and rain and forests, dragging out a rough life. How much easier is it for me to live under a roof, and at leisure to be sated with a large meal? Then come with me. As they go on, the wolf notices the neck of the dog, worn out by a collar. Where is this from, friend? It is nothing. Even so, please do tell. Because I am seen as violent, they bind me through the day, so that I rest in the light, and wake up when night will have come. At dusk, unbound I roam wherever is seen. Besides, bread is offered. From his table, master gives bones. The family throws table scraps, and because everyone dislikes it, porridge. Thus, without work, my stomach is filled. Well then, if it is your mind to go wherever, is it freedom? Plainly it is not, it said. Enjoy that which you praise, dog. I do not want to rule so that I would not be free to myself. If you've made it this far in the video, thank you very much for watching. Having just recorded the English and Latin readings, I think I actually prefer having the part about the bread and the table scraps higher up, like further up, so that it's in the dog's original convincing of the wolf, because it just makes more sense to be up there to me and not interrupt the part that was explaining about the collar and being bound. Plus, the wolf mentions being sated with a large meal, yet the dog never actually mentioned how much food was gotten, but it was just kind of implied. I don't know. I think if I were to redo this, I would have used the Latin library text to have the part about the food that the dog gets up where it's originally supposed to be convincing the wolf. But I'm not redoing this because it took me like 2 hours to translate through the text and to explain everything. So yeah, not redoing it right now. But anyways, next time should be something much shorter, thankfully. And yeah, get a little visit from a little philosopher friend. So until next time, remember to spay and neuter your pets, like I hope this family did with this dog. Et valete, viatores.